Hello and welcome to Timeless Truths, a sermon podcast from St. Mark Ministries in Greater Green Bay, Wisconsin. In this episode, we continue our series, His Final Steps. In episode 42, let's join Mike Hennig as we learn how his final steps led to the cross. So open up your heart, open up your Bible, and let's dig into these timeless truths.
The man who spent 3 years with Jesus, learning from him, suddenly flees out of fear. And just before that, he denied Jesus 3 times, that he even knew who Jesus was. And Judas spent every waking moment, whether it was a thought or an action, and he thought about how to make more money, how to steal. And so it's no surprise that when suddenly he's offered silver that's shiny and is heavy in his purse, and it offers him satisfaction, but it's only temporary. And then the crowd that less than a week ago shouted praises, Hosanna to the King. Now their words are filled with hate to crucify him. They would have rather had a murderer, Barabbas, walk just inches past their children on the street than to set Jesus free. It's so easy for you and I to say, what is wrong with those people? What is wrong with the people in that crowd? Judas, what was wrong with you? How dare you do such a thing? And Peter, you're just plain weak. Couldn't stand up for Jesus. But we're good at blaming people, aren't we? We're good at blaming people and saying, if I had been there, I would have fought against that crowd. I would have never betrayed Jesus, no matter what the cost. I certainly would have never denied him. The truth is we're here today, and if we're honest, those things aren't true. Because we would have fallen for the things, and we do. We fall for what's shiny and looks good in our garage or our home, and it takes priority over our faith. We sometimes fail to speak up in the crowd, and we go with the crowd because we're just concerned about maybe what people think of us in person, not to mention what they might think about us online. And then denying Jesus. Friends, sometimes we just do that and we don't even know it. And it goes very deep, down to the deep problem, the root of all of it, sin. Sin that weighs heavy on my mind, and sin that weighs heavy on your mind. Church, you have heavy sin. And so today, I invite those of you who are ready to bring those nails. Bring those nails forward now. The nails that are heavy. The nails that are heavy that put Jesus on the cross, those of you who have offered to do that, come and grab those nails. I need you to bring those nails up to me so that we can put them on this scale and show the weight that they bring. It was my sin that held him there until it was accomplished. Are you carrying nails for the cross? It was my sin that held him there. Are you carrying nails for the cross? It was my sin that held him there until it was accomplished. Are you bringing nails to the cross? It was my sin that held him there until it was accomplished. Are you bringing nails to the cross? And why? We know how the story goes. We know how the story ends, and yet you and I, we spend our days worrying, frustrated, lost, trying to succeed, trying to navigate and find purpose, trying to overcome loss of a job, trying to overcome family problems, family dysfunction, marriages that are broken. Maybe it's just trying to find purpose in school and who are your friends and living up to their expectations. And the game changer for all of us is when we hear the words that Jesus shares with us, "Come to me, all you who are weary, burdened, frustrated, carrying heavy weights, and I will give you rest." That's Jesus' promise to us. And how do we know that? We know that because Jesus took those footsteps. He took those footsteps to the cross even though Judas betrayed him. Jesus took those footsteps to the cross even though Peter denied him. Even though the crowd shouted against him. Jesus took those footsteps to the cross. And he stayed on the cross even when those who passed by hurled insults at him. And Jesus stayed on that cross even though the soldiers down below who put him there mocked him and made fun of him. And Jesus stayed on that cross even though the criminal next to him demanded that he come down and save them all. He stayed on that cross even though I betrayed him. He stayed on that cross even though you betray him. And Jesus stayed on that cross because he had me on his mind. Jesus stayed on that cross because he had you. He had you on his mind. From noon until 3, darkness covered the land. When it was all done, Jesus looked up to heaven and he spoke in a loud voice, "It is finished." And with that, he bowed his head and he gave up his spirit. At that point, the curtain in the temple tore in two. The Roman centurion who stood there before Jesus looked up at him and said, "Surely this man, he was the Son of God." While later, a man by the name of Joseph of Arimathea, he was a good man and on the council, but secretly followed Jesus. And he went to Pilate. He went to Pilate and asked him for permission to take Jesus' body. Pilate was surprised to hear that Jesus was already dead, and so he sent word to the centurion. Once that was confirmed, Pilate gave Joseph permission, and Joseph took Jesus' body. He had it wrapped in linens, and then he put it inside a tomb carved into the rock. And then he had a stone rolled in front of it. We often talk about balance in our lives between school, work, personal lives, family. Those are all things that we try to navigate and balance. When it comes to sin, there's nothing that we can do about that. There's nothing that we can do about that weight. It's the cross, though. It wasn't necessarily the nails that held Jesus there. It wasn't just my sin. In fact, it was Jesus' love. It was Jesus' love that kept him on that cross and outweighs all of the sin from me, from you, and anyone who ever has and ever will live. It's freedom in the cross. It takes away that weight.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of Timeless Truths. Whether you're a first-time listener or a long-time listener, we're glad you could join us. For more information or to support the work of St. Mark Ministries, check out our website at stmarkministries.com. Be sure to tune in next episode as we continue our series, His Final Steps, and we will celebrate Easter together. And remember, you matter and you are loved.